Some of the areas of mental thought in the Black American community and in the martial arts community, it's probably because both of those thought pockets have origins in the street. Part of those two mental areas and where they intersect, how can I say this? They think that only reformed hoodlums can solve their problems. Like, if somebody, when it comes to self-defense and solving black people problems from the hood or whatever, or black poverty, it seems like there are people who think that only reformed hoodlums are qualified to address those issues. Now, I'm not saying that reformed hoodlums should not speak to those issues or may not even do a great job of speaking to those issues. But that doesn't mean that they're the only people who have authenticity. If a solution works, a solution should work. If it's truth, it's truth. True is true no matter who says it. It should just be taken on just the merit of the information, the merit of the argument. I wish I remembered the lady who I got that idea from. She did a old philosophy program on cable, and I happened to catch it at 0:30 in the morning. And I really liked it. Now I'm running with it, but I wish I could give her credit. I mean, come on. And it's the same criticism of where both mental pockets hate the recovering nerd. Both of those mental pockets will say this: oh, you're only doing X because you got beat up when you were in middle school, high school, college, whatever. Because you got your lunch money taken by the bullies. That's the only reason why you're doing this. And that's the only reason why you feel the way you feel. So that takes away from your argument. So what? So what if it's the person that got their lunch money taken? Is what they're presenting to you going to work or not? Try it out. Does it work or not? A lot of times it'll work. It's whoever, whether they're reformed hoodlum or reformed victim, if they put mental effort into addressing the problem and they have repeatable results from people they've given their solutions to, it's going to work. Their solution is a valid solution to the problem. Whether it's the problem of self-defense or a problem with addressing poverty and other socioeconomic or mental issues that come about in parts of the black community. Maybe part of the problem with trying to solve street issues or issues that people address in the hood is that you only want to look at solutions given by hood people. You can be too entrenched in something so that you cannot see the forest from the trees. If you don't know that metaphor, look it up. And the same thing can happen in self-defense martial arts circles. You could be so deeply entrenched in self-defense that you can't handle a combative or physical problem without thinking that you have to take it to the self-defense or kill mode. Some fights are just that. They're just fights. They may, yes, technically be self-defense, but it might not require all that to be a solution. Like, here's a perfect example. I'm not going to say the name of the book that I saw this in because it's a good book. And I'm not going to say who the author that is that I'm criticizing, but it was a good book. But some of the responses that were given for the self-defense are overkill. They are overboard because you don't need to break somebody's fingers because they touched you inappropriately. I'm just going to say that. You should smack the hand away first, and then if the person continues to try to be inappropriate, then by all means break the fingers. But you don't just go right to pain, joint lock, finger lock, because the person touched you inappropriately. That's ridiculous. What if it was an accident? There's no, let me assess the situation and see what's appropriate. Or even, let me assess the situation to see what's smart. I'll give a real personal example that has never happened, but it's still possible. I'm a black guy, right? Let's say my white supervisor calls me by the N-word, okay? And I'm not implying that any white supervisor I've ever had or ever will has done this or would do this, or nor what I think they would, because they're much too smart for that. Let's say that happened, right? Now, a lot of people say, I don't care who it is, you should punch them in the face, right? Now, if it were a male that said that, if it was a white male supervisor who called his black male subordinate by the N-word, and a black male subordinate punched a white male in the face, a lot of people wouldn't feel sorry for the white guy, right? Especially if it was just a poorly executed punch that resulted in no serious injury or death, only in wounding of pride. Okay. You might even be able to get away with keeping your job depending on how lenient the environment is. Okay. Now let's suppose that it's a black male subordinate but a white female supervisor, and she used the same type of language. You think anybody's going to tolerate a black guy punching a white woman in the face because she used the N-word? No. That wouldn't be a smart response, would it? No. There are jobs that wouldn't even tolerate the black guy punching the white guy in the face because they use the N-word. Because they're going to say, and rightfully so, well, you know, you should be more mature that you don't let words insult you, blah, blah, blah. Which is true. So you shouldn't, you know, what does that say about your judgment? And they'd have a pretty good argument with that. What does that say about your judgment? That you're just going to holler off and hit somebody every time they say something that you deem offensive. So it wouldn't be smart to just strike the person. That's overreacting. And that's the that's the equivalent advice that some people give with handling some of the responses for martial arts, and or even some of the responses in martial arts self-defense, or just interpersonal communication, or, you know, responses between people. What you need to have is a response that's appropriate. So let's say if it's a racially charged situation, if someone calls you out of your name, even if you're angry or upset, you should do your best to tell them, I don't appreciate that type of language. Please don't address me that way. You know, I would appreciate it if you don't say that to me again. You know, or what you really ought to do is just go to human resources. That would be an appropriate response. You can say, you know, I don't feel comfortable with that. You can even tell them I'm going to human resources because of what you just said. Or you basically you handle words with words. That's equal. We handle words with an appropriate response. Now, if they call you the N-word and then you call them the C-word, or if it's a female, well, there's still a C-word for women too. So we'll just say C-word. If they call you the N-word and then you call them the C-word, then you both look like you're down there in the gutter. But if they call you the N-word and you respond with, I don't appreciate that language, and even if you say you're going to report it, you let them know, then you look like you have a brain and they don't. But see, if you always got to keep it street, to keep it hood, to keep it real, or you know have to always have this post-hoodlum response to whatever happens to you, you're not going to be able to handle things appropriately. But let me bring it on back. See, some people think that only the harshest of responses, be it with what we call quote-unquote black problems, or what we call self-defense, or, you know, reality. They think that anything that's considered quote-unquote real can only be handled harshly. And they think that only people who have come from harsh environments can solve the problems of harsh environments. And that is not true. Whoever has a solution has a solution. Sometimes somebody outside of your little thought bubble is the best person to give you a solution because they can look at the situation objectively because they don't have their feelings invested into it. So I've said all that to say we got a real problem in the martial arts community. Well, not the whole, not all. In some parts of the martial arts community and in some parts of the black community, we only value feedback from people who are reformed hoodlums. We despise people who are ex-nerds or even current nerds. We have to stop looking at the person and look at the quality of the solution that they give. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. Period. Peace.